Hey everyone, welcome back to the realm. I'm Gina.
I'm Rich.
I'm Jenny.
I'm Amy.
And we are here today with our monthly podcast episode. In case you didn't catch it, we're going to be doing one deep dive a month. And we also have our Wrestling with the Realm. And we have also expanded with our Realm on Film that Rich, Rob, and Brian have kind of spearheaded. So don't worry, ladies, we're going to be on there. We will be hijacking one. Actually, Amy, I was thinking this today when I was doing laundry. Remember when we did the episode your friend wanted us to do a movie review on the paranormal romance,
like the haunted wedding or something like that.
Yeah. So I think that we should force the guys to sit through that movie.
100%.
And I think we should.
What is it called?
I think it was a haunted wedding or something like that.
Let me look it up. It's like a paranormal romance love story kind of thing.
Oh my gosh, it's great.
I'd watch it.
Paranormal romance. What was it? Like a Hallmark film?
Yes.
Oh wait, no, I don't do Hallmark.
Come on, maybe
you
will. Isn't it like always the same characters in just different movies?
Yes, 100%. With the same storyline, but just throw in something quirky.
Now it's Christmas. Now it's
Halloween. I don't think it was Christmas, but it was the wedding.
What is it called? No, it's not. Was it the haunted wedding? Hang on.
It did have an Irish theme.
Yeah, it was called Haunted Wedding. You're right. So yeah, we're gonna watch that Haunted Wedding. Just
because it was a pretty good podcast, but we had noise issues or something like that.
Yeah, so the sound got almost wiped out on it, and then you couldn't hear it very well. So I don't know what happened that night, but I was so disappointed. So we should do that for your friend, and just just to bring a little flair to the realm on film.
Yes. it like we should almost do Women Against the Men or something like that.
That'd be kind of cool.
Yes,
Battle
awesome. Of the
because ours is going to be much more positive than the guys.
Yes. And maybe a little less
you guys we're doing like Fight Club or something.
Yes.
Just total end of the spectrum.
Perfect.
You guys, I'm not lying when I say there's been some weird news articles, and I'm kind of a little sad that we're not still doing Weird Weekly News. That's why I think we should still pay attention to them and bring them. Have you guys heard of any weird news lately? I'm trying to pull up some ones that because I always screenshot them. So I'm like, oh, okay, I got to bring these up.
There was one I saw in Florida. I was watching baseball, and they were giving highlights, and they were showing them Florida Marlins, and some guy got up to chase the ball and his pants fell down.
Oh, that would have been embarrassing.
And they said, yep, only in Florida. I was like, I know exactly what you mean.
Florida for you.
That's exactly what I was thinking.
Actually, most of them have come out of Florida. One was man arrested after breaking into Barnes & Noble at midnight to finish a book he'd been reading in a store for 4 consecutive days and need to resolve before sleeping. So I don't know if that one's true. But Shannon, my friend Shannon, she's always sending me stuff like weird news out of Florida because she knows we rip on Florida all the time. And honestly, it's not our fault. It's not like one day we woke up and we're like, we're going to pick on Florida. Literally, Florida, you've done it to yourself.
Yeah, they've been
the best stories come from Florida.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, it is what it is.
But is that because so many people from all the other states move there? It just so happens it's in Florida.
Right.
So yeah, that would be Shannon's explanation, because she's constantly pissed off about how the snowbirds, because she's like, I was born and raised here pretty much. I mean, except for there was a period of time she lived in West Virginia, but she's like, this is my home, and then everybody comes down here, and then I can't get into the doctor and the traffic to go down the road. It's just all those things. But I feel like we not us in particular, but I think sometimes we deal with this kind of stuff up here, just in the opposite. In the summer months when it's nice for us, we have all the tourists. But I said, hey, that's why you don't pay state taxes, is because of all the tourism. So
tourism is going to get busier in Milwaukee because they're expanding their cruise line, and
it's expensive to go on that.
I know the Viking one,
$1,000 on the Viking cruise to go from Toronto, Canada, through the Niagara Falls and come all the way down to Milwaukee. And my dad says innocently, well, what are you going to do when you get to Milwaukee? I said, drive home.
Right.
I mean, it'd be
Where
cool,
does it
but
leave
yeah, not for
from?
that price.
It's
Downtown,
Toronto.
Port of Milwaukee.
No, so it ends here or leaves here?
It ends here, according to Viking. I was looking at the
Oh,
Viking
okay.
line.
Yeah, but I think they have some that actually that
They
start out
probably
too.
do.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I've looked at some that takes it all the way down to the like to New Orleans, but it's like thousands of dollars. It's
Oh,
you
yes.
could go
Go on a regular
international
cruise
for
for
that.
that. Yeah.
Yeah, I would
Yeah.
rather go back over the pond before I would
Yeah,
do
it's
that.
a lot. I was shocked because I
Yeah.
thought, oh, Milwaukee, it's probably kind of cheap. I'd like to send my parents, and I was like, nope, never mind.
Well, I tried to win the Powerball last night for us,
Ugh.
but it didn't come true.
Yeah.
So.
Thank you for your effort.
I did try though. I bought a few tickets and then I bought a scratch off and won $100. So I thought maybe
Maybe.
that would transfer over to my luck on the other, but alas, it did not.
Mm.
So this is we have one more podcast, or maybe not. This might be the last podcast that we record at my house. I know we're all in our each own houses, but our house is closing on May 12th and we say goodbye and off to our new journey. But now that's okay. Because I have in the new house, there's like a room downstairs.
That's cool.
Sounds ominous. That's more like soundproofing, so I think it'll sound better.
We'll have to figure out exactly halfway.
Yeah, exactly. And it's only like an hour and 26 minutes from here. So it's not going to be hard for us all to visit, but that's okay. We can do everything virtually anyway, but all right. Well, today, folks, we are handing it over to Amy because so all of us kind of put in dibs on like topics that we would like to discuss. And Amy had brought up the case of the lead mask, or is it iron mask? I can't remember.
Lead mask.
Lead mask. Sorry about
lead
that.
mask. Yep.
So I am going to turn it over to Amy unless anybody else has anything they want to catch up on, share any drops of knowledge, little.
No, but I'll say I knew nothing about this topic, and when I started looking into it, I thought, how cool is this? This is a fantastic.
Yeah, I'm surprised I had never heard of it either.
That's when I.
Or if I did, I just in passing didn't even think about it. But I was like, it was interesting. I watched a YouTube thing on it, and then I read up on it too on the internet a little bit. I mean, interesting. I'm shocked
That's what makes our team strong, though, because
we know about it.
A little bit of something different. But all right, Amy, the floor is yours.
All right, here I am. Okay, so honestly, I think that I not necessarily was assigned to this one, but I think Rob might have found this one.
Oh, did
or told me to do it or something like that, because I was like, I never heard of that one. Sounds lame in my mind. But it turns out as I was looking, I have heard at least 2 different podcasts on it already.
Really?
Yeah, and I just never really realized that that's what it is. I must have missed the whole, name of the mystery or whatever. But as soon as I started looking into it, I realized I already kind of know about this case, which is cool because then I don't have to just jump into it not knowing what I'm talking about, even though I'll be reading off a piece of paper the whole time. But yeah, so it's still a mystery, which is cool. And so it's open definitely for discussion. A lot of people have different ideas of as far as what happened. So as I read off this piece of paper, you can kind of like everyone can draw their own conclusions, basically, because there's a lot of different theories, and I'll go through all the theories as well. So 2 men, a hilltop in Brazil, homemade lead masks, a cryptic note, and instructions that seem to point to something not entirely of this world. So on August 20th, 1966, a teenage boy was flying a kite near a hill just outside Rio de Janeiro. It was an ordinary day, warm, quiet, nothing unusual, until he noticed something strange: 2 bodies. Lying side by side in the grass, fully dressed in formal suits. At first glance, they didn't look like victims of violence. There was no blood, no visible injuries, just stillness. Authorities were called. When police arrived, the scene became even more bizarre. Each man was wearing a lead mask, which is why this is called the lead mask mystery, cut roughly into the shape of glasses designed to cover the eyes. No lenses, no straps, just heavy sheets of lead placed over their faces. Nearby investigators found a water bottle, a package containing wet towels, and a small notebook with handwritten notes. The note read, one note. The note read, 1630, be at the agreed place. 1830, ingest capsules. After effect protected metals. After effect protected metals, wait for signal mask. Okay, so no explanation, no context, just instructions. All right. Two men were identified as, I should have practiced this. Manuel Pereira de Cruz.
Yep.
Sorry if I got that wrong. And Miguel Jose Viana. So once again, sorry if I pronounced that wrong. But they weren't drifters or criminals. They were electronics technicians from Campos de Goitem, I don't know, Brazil. They're from Brazil, about 170 miles away. Respected, employed, and married. People who knew them described them as intelligent, curious, and deeply interested in science and spirituality, which in 1960s Brazil often overlapped in unusual ways. So let's rewind to the day they left home, August 17th. Manuel and Miguel told their families they were going to Rio to buy electronic parts. Before leaving, Miguel gave his wife an odd instruction. If anything happens, go to a certain place. He didn't explain further. That's unsettling, but at the time, it didn't seem urgent. They took money with them, enough for supplies, and headed out. Along the way, witnesses would later confirm they bought raincoats despite the warm weather. They purchased a water bottle. And suspiciously, no one saw them buy the capsules mentioned in the note. So break down the note. At 1630, be at the agreed place. 1830, ingest capsules. After effect, protect metals, wait for signal, mask. It reads like a checklist, step-by-step instructions, almost ritualistic. So what could that mean? Be at the agreed place, clearly Vintum Hill, ingest capsules, some kind of substance, protect metals, possibly referring to the lead masks, and wait for signal. This is where things get strange. A signal from what? Or from who?
I feel like it got strange before then.
Yeah, right? The masks themselves are one of the most puzzling of elements. They were handmade, crude, functional, and heavy. Not something you'd casually throw together. And why lead? Lead is often associated with radiation shielding, protection from bright light, or even in fringe beliefs, shielding from spiritual or cosmic energy. Were they expecting a flash of light, radiation, or something else entirely? Here's where the mystery deepens, which it's already pretty deep, right? The autopsy revealed almost nothing. No trauma, no signs of a struggle, no obvious poison, but there was major problem. Due to the heat and time elapsed before the bodies were discovered, decomposition had advanced significantly. Ooh, that poor kid that was flying the kite. Which meant toxicology tests were inconclusive. If they did ingest capsules wherever they were, there was no way to confirm it. The official cause of death, undetermined. So there is a UFO connection. I just want to make sure I got the next one right. So now we step into more controversial theories. In 1960, Brazil was experiencing a surge of UFO sightings. Bright objects in the sky, strange lights hovering over hills, encounters with unexplained aerial phenomenon. And Ventum Hill, which, sorry if I'm pronouncing it wrong, was one of those locations. Witnesses even claimed that on the night of the men's deaths, they saw a glowing object hovering over the hill. So naturally, speculation exploded. Were Manuel and Miguel attempting to contact extraterrestrials? Did they believe they would receive a signal from above? And were the lead masks meant to protect them from that encounter? Another theory is less extraterrestrial, but just strange. The men were reportedly involved in spiritual groups. These groups often blended science, mysticism, and psychic experimentation. Some believed in communicating with higher beings. Others experimented with altered states of consciousness. They were reported, though not all verified, that the men had previously attempted to contact spirits and induce visions, which maybe there's some LSD in those capsules.
Yeah, because they never found out what was in them, right? So
Right.
who knows what they were?
Yeah, because they'd have been found too late.
Yep.
Or achieve enlightenment through chemical means. So the capsules might not have been at random. They could have been part of the planned ritual, a dangerous one. Let's talk about the capsule. This is one of the most grounded explanations. If the men ingested a substance intentionally or accidentally, it could explain the lack of struggle, their calm positioning, the structured instructions, possibly include psychedelics, sedatives, or even a toxic compound. But here's the problem. Why would two rational, educated men take something potentially lethal on purpose, unless they didn't believe it would kill them, unless they believed something else would happen? Some investigators suspected the men were trying to stage something, maybe a scientific experiment, a spiritual demonstration, or even a hoax. But if it was a hoax, it went terribly wrong. There's no evidence of foul play, no third party, no robbery, nothing was missing. Everything points back to one conclusion. Whatever happened, they planned it. Here's something that often gets overlooked: the wet towels. Why did they bring them? One theory: they were meant to be placed over the face, possibly to filter air, reduce exposure, or prepare for the event. But the towels were the towels were found unused, which suggests they didn't get to that step or something happened faster than expected. This is the core mystery. The note says, wait for the signal. That implies expectation, timing, coordination. They believe something was going to happen at a specific moment, but what? Theories include a flash of light, hence the masks, a spiritual or psychedelic event, a UFO encounter, or even an internal hallucination triggered by the capsules. Whatever it was, it never came, or if it did, it wasn't what they expected. Today, most researchers lean toward a more grounded explanation. The leading theory: the men were experimenting with psychoactive substances in a ritualistic setting. They followed detailed instructions. They took capsules. Something went wrong, and without immediate help, they died. But that doesn't even answer everything. Why the masks? Why the secrecy? Why the cryptic note? And why travel so far for something like this? Why this capsule still haunts people today? Why the case still haunts people today. The lead mask isn't just mysterious, it's unsettling because it sits right at the intersection of science, belief, curiosity, and risk. It is a reminder that human beings have always pushed boundaries, tried to reach beyond what we understand, and sometimes paid the price. Two men walked up a hill with a plan. They had instructions, they had equipment. They believed something was going to happen, and whatever it was, they never came back down. So, was it a tragic experiment, a spiritual ritual gone wrong, or something we still don't fully understand? That's what I got. And that's it. I mean, there's no other explanation. And also, the note, the instructions, did they write that? Did someone else write that? Whose note were they following the instructions for?
But it didn't have a date on it either. It just had
No.
a time. So maybe it wasn't even for that day.
Right.
Maybe that's just something people are looking at, like
Right.
we're talking about, and it has nothing to do with it because it's so open-ended. Nobody knows. There's a lot of
And on the
questions.
outside, they seemed like very normal guys. They had a job, they had a family, all that stuff. And then, you know, it's like in a way, in a tiny little way, it almost reminded me of the Heaven's Gate people with, you know, taking these pills. But those guys were kind of like, sorry if I'm offensive, but they were weird. And no one would say like, but they were all normal guys. They just dressed alike or whatever.
Right.
Because they weren't.
I know that
So it's just weird.
I looked at different sources, and one of the sources that I looked at, they were talking about how someone had claimed to see like a disc-shaped ball of light, like around the same time that this happened, and that it was illuminating light from all directions. And this was a very reputable person in the area, but it was just kind of discounted. And then they went into this story about how these two gentlemen were professionals, and they were into I think it was like electrician.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They were called electronics technician.
Yeah, they
Is
were.
that what it was? Yeah. So they talked a lot about how the timing of things happened. And when I looked at a couple of other sources, there was one source that said this actually happened like 2 years prior, that they found an individual in a very similar scenario where they were on top of a very large structure of land, and that they were found like nothing appeared to be wrong, but they were dead, and there was a lead mask next to them. So that kind of made me feel like, it could have been a cult. It could have been like some sort of a belief that a group of people share or have learned about, and they're very dedicated to how do we fulfill this? How do we actually communicate? There's that thought process that it's drugs. It's a thought process that it could be supernatural. It could be aliens trying to interact with aliens. And it could be that they felt like they were just going to take these capsules and die. And that was their path, which I think led to the example that you gave with the cult, that they all took this medication thinking that they were going to be going to a better place, and they did that willingly, and they wound up all dying. So, I found it really interesting because you can look in lots of different directions. It could have been foul play, but they still had money on them when they found their bodies. So if it was foul play, why didn't they take all their money? There's just so many different things that it could have been. It's really unexplained. I found it really interesting.
They could have been the guinea pigs of a larger group. You know what I
Could have
mean?
been.
Like,
Yeah.
oops, maybe we should take less next time. You know what I mean? Like,
Right.
Yeah.
And nobody came forward because they were like, oh, sorry.
Oopsie.
Yeah, oopsie.
Well,
who knows? Could be.
I found interesting that their job titles or what they did for work kind of varied depending on what source you went to. The majority of them called them like what was it? What did I say? It was just electronic technicians.
Technicians, yeah.
But then another source called them professional electrical engineers. So it's like, it's hard to say. And why that's important to me is because if they were engineers or some sort of like had some sort of scientific background, that maybe even as a hobby, but they studied somewhat under that field, like were they trying to, like you said, conduct experiments? Were they part of a underground group, as it were, that were conducting experiments like without reporting it to anybody? Were they
Right.
involved in other things? There was another source that said that they thought that they were meeting up with people to sell them some kind of like substance, or I don't know if it was chemicals, or sell them something, and that it went wrong. So there was just like a lot of theories out there. But I find it interesting, Jenny, that you found something that said that somebody had reported a ball of light in the area, because that was the other thing. It's like, what else was going on at that time
Yeah.
that could have. And we've talked before in other podcasts about how in those eras, if you remember, like it was all the craze to worry about like UFOs. You
Yeah.
had that event that happened on that radio show that people thought that the earth was really ending, or aliens were invaded. And you had, I mean, just everything was so science based in that time. I mean, if you think about it, even with not that it's a historical piece of work, but in Back to the Future, when they depict that time period back then, these kids were reading their comic books about UFOs and aliens and spacemen. So,
Mhm.
who's to say? I mean, they didn't have the ability to communicate the same way we do today by, being able to send each other an email or a text or, have some sort of protected VPN to do these secret communications. So, I'd be interested to know if there was more investigation done on these guys after the fact, and I'm sure there is, but there's probably a lack of like files that are translated or like having access to those kinds of things. But I'd be very curious to find like what did they find at these people's homes. Was there any other communication they gave the wives? Like, you know did the government there cover something up?
Mhm.
Did they know about it? So I don't know, it's just so shrouded in mystery. But just to think about finding people like that, and especially now that you say that 2 years before somebody else was, that's just crazy to me. I
Yeah.
remember listening to a podcast about this, but a while back ago, and I didn't realize it was the same thing whenever you talked about doing this topic.
Yeah,
So,
same.
so I just didn't realize it was the same thing, but as you're giving the details, it's like all coming back to me.
Yeah, yeah.
So
I
yeah.
think one of the most fascinating thought process, because there was also some information in one of the sources that talked about how they had conducted experiments with blowing things up.
Oh, I didn't
And
know that.
if that's true, and this source also talked about how one of the gentlemen had talked with his wife and said, "We're working on an experiment and I can't talk with you about it. It's secret and there's no way for me to share the information." But if that was true, then it seems more maybe scientific that they were conducting experiments and they were going to be doing those types of things. But I think the most fascinating line of thought is that they may have thought that they were going to interact with some sort of supernatural being, and they were utilizing those masks to protect their eyes from whatever was going to happen, and the instructions that they had to take these capsules at a certain time maybe was supposed to prep them for whatever interaction was going to happen. And then
Yeah, but
that
whatever experiment they were doing, they could have needed the mask for too, for to shield their eyes. Doesn't mean it was aliens.
No, but I'm saying that's one of the thought processes that I looked at. There were many. There were many that
Wow.
sound like they were part of a cult, and there were some that were talked about them being scientists and doing experiments, and maybe the capsules were supposed to protect them from something. But yeah, there's a lot of different theories out there, and
Well, and the weirdest part is like, why don't we know more about this? You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, there's little like snippets. Oh, he had a wife and he said weird things to her right before he left. And there has to have been a couple employees next to him that,
Right.
saw like, so either everybody really had their trap shut or he was real secretive, I guess. But like, you know, you would
Well,
think just more than two of those people, just
Mhm.
those two people would have,
Right.
it couldn't have been just those two people.
the other thing that I looked at, and whenever they were talking about the capsules, is I was thinking about, like, okay, what pills were available at that time that um, protected people from radiation? Because some people thought like that as well, and and like doing a little search on it, there wasn't a whole lot that was around. Like today we use potassium iodide, and it's something called Prussian blue, for iodine and cesium exposure. But they weren't widely deployed for the public in that area, is what it said. But in the 60s, um, though there was not a lot of anti-radiation pills that were available to the general public, for protection against fallout, they did have DTPA that was approved, and I'm not going to try to pronounce that and embarrass myself. But it was a prescription to remove specific radioactive metals like plutonium. So, I mean, did those pills have any kind of side effects? Did they get pills that were actually real, or did they buy them off of somebody thinking that's what they were getting
Right.
and instead were given something else?
Right.
entirely. Like that's what crossed my mind whenever they took pills. Because if they're wearing the lead mask to protect against radiation, like we do with X-rays, then maybe they were also taking something to help protect their bodies from radioactive fallout. So just a thought on my end.
Yeah, well, the opportunity they had, they wasted because they took too long to do the autopsy. So, you know,
Yeah, it's
like
not
you
like
said, this one of the simplest things that maybe would have eliminated half of those theories could have just been from finding out what that pill was.
Right.
We're
Right.
never going to
Well, and
know.
it was so long ago, they probably, I don't know if they would even have the right testing, right? It was like the 60s.
Yeah, and like what would they
Yeah,
know to
true.
test for at that time? You know, what did they look for in toxicology
True.
screenings at that time? You know, but I don't, but you would think that if somebody was found at the top of the hill dressed in suits with lead masks, that maybe that they would take a little bit more interest, that they would kind of throw what they had at it to try to solve the mystery. At least
Right.
that's what I would think. Like, because that would just be so bizarre.
So, I mean, it's such a weird thing. Like, you'd think they would have dug a little deeper instead of saying, oh, well, we did this autop. They're too dead to do this. You know what I mean? They're too far gone. It's a hot day. Like, I don't know. It's just weird to me that people wouldn't have like dug a little deeper because it is so weird.
Yeah.
They were obviously expecting something between the instructions and, showing up in the same place. There was no sign of struggle. They were expecting something to happen, whether that was an explosion or some sort of interaction or
Yeah.
some sort of effect from the drugs, whatever the case was. They were expecting something. I would really love to do some more digging into the other commented experience where there was a similar situation because I didn't do a lot of digging in that direction, but I found it interesting that they did call out another example of something very similar that had happened a couple years ago, because that makes you wonder, is there more cultish type behavior happening that folks truly believe in could lead them to do the same thing with the lead masks? So found it interesting. It was a cool story.
Yeah. It's a weird one. But
I
I
This
don't
was
know.
good information.
Sorry. Go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say I just was like scrolling down and it said that um in the 1950s and 60s, the US government, I know this was in Brazil, but if the US government's doing it, maybe others are, conducted, for example, studies involving radioactive isotopes, but it was for research rather than public protection. So I'm wondering if like maybe they were engineers, maybe they were working for the government, because it didn't say exactly where they were working in but I didn't take a deep enough dive. Um, but it says that it's important to note that many remedies or radium pills from earlier decades, like the 1920s to the 1950s, were considered quack cures. So
Hmm.
maybe I,
But is it something you would die instantly from? Like,
I don't
especially
know.
radium pills, I feel like it would just make all your teeth fall out first or something.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it was just like pills to protect yourself
Mm.
from poisoning. Like, because if you remember, did you guys watch the show that was on Netflix about the nuclear reactor that failed? And
Noble.
yeah, that was like,
That
you know,
thing was that was a really
a
disturbing thing to watch. But yes, I watched it.
yeah, and I mean they were like people were taking those pills too as the radiation levels were going up in the air, and they were scientists that had access to that stuff. So that's why, I mean, that was one of the things that I don't know. I feel like I would almost die on the hill that that's what they were doing, but you just never
Well,
know.
they did die on the hill. So.
Yeah, that they did. Oh God.
They died
Oh
on
my
that
God.
hill.
I
I
did
was
not even think
confused for a
about what
minute
I
because I
was
was like, wait
saying.
a minute.
Oh God. I didn't even think about what I was saying. Rich, on any of the stuff that you watched, did you get any other information than what
No,
we got?
I didn't get as much as Jenny got, but I got the same thing that between Amy and Jenny got. Yes.
Gotcha. Okay.
So, and I was leaning towards, usually the simplest explanation is probably what happened. So right away I'm going, it's not aliens. Okay. That's just everybody's mind goes there. Maybe it's just something nefarious that happened.
Yeah.
They were going up there and they just stumbled it, they came across something. I mean, maybe they were going to do something else, but maybe that's not what got them killed. Maybe that pill thing is totally separate from the mask thing.
Yeah.
We just don't know. we can come up with all these theories. So,
Maybe
and
they were just
like we
trying to be
said,
the
if one thing had happened that they did figure out, it would lead us down a different path. But being there's no evidence
Yeah.
of anything, your mind starts to wander, and you come up with all these theories of what could happen.
I'm just wondering, maybe they were trying to invent the first rave. Who knows?
Oh, I'd be really interested to know what our viewers think. I know that this is something that is super interesting. There are so many different theories about what could have happened. And I only dug into a few different sources. I imagine that there are a lot of people out there that have stronger opinions and probably more background and details to be able to say, this is something that also happened that leads me to believe this. I would love to hear some of those stories. So,
Yeah.
Me too.
Yeah, and definitely, Jenny, if you find anything else out on the other portion of that topic, like
mhm.
that person that kind of was a repeat thing, I would love to know, like, if you would just post it, on our
Yeah,
Facebook page, because
I'll
I
look
would just
into
be
that
interested to
because
see.
is that caught my eye and I was like, all of a sudden the story changed. What do you mean
Now,
there was
okay, so just to get this
something
clear, it happened 2 years ago or 2 years before their
2 years
death?
before?
Their death. Okay.
Mhm.
I wonder if they were copycat. Where was that at? Was that in the same area?
It didn't go into depth. So that's the
Okay.
thing is, they talked about it briefly and I was like, oh, I probably should learn more about that, but
Yeah.
would focus more on the two gentlemen that were involved here.
And I just like, you can't, I would love to know, like, in that area, because you can't like just suspect what other cultures were like at specific times, because I guess some of the accounts that I read was like, yeah, they were into spiritualism, and I don't know if mysticism is the correct word, but you're also dealing with, obviously, information that's been translated, and then hope that the source that it was originally translated from, that people got most of their information from, was an accurate enough translation to you know paint, because we may have like bastardized this whole
Right. It's like the
story.
telephone game.
Absolutely. We didn't spend a ton of time and like lots of investigation on the history of these two people and all of that, but
Well, yeah, no, I mean, just in general, the United States doing what they do, or just like anything that's translated from somewhere, like it ends up getting bastardized no matter who like is talking about it. I didn't mean us in general. I just meant like here. So we have like information that's translated and things float around the internet, and then it just gets changed hands and changed hands and changed hands. And pretty soon all the stories sound alike. And then you're like, okay, I just want to kind of get to the truth of it. But Rich, you said you watched a YouTube. Do you would you mind putting that link on Facebook once I post this
Yeah, I'll
episode? That
figure out
would be
what it
great.
was. Yeah. I think Jenny watched one too, and at parts of it, she said, "Oh, this one's an hour long," and I'm like, "The one I watched wasn't an hour long, but it sounded like it was the same one." So I'm not
Okay.
sure. It's like the same narration, the same. I recognize exactly what they were saying, so I'm not sure.
Yeah.
If there was just one that had more information in it, had to have been somewhere along the line there. But
I can post that link though too, the one that I was
Excellent.
listening to. So
yeah,
Yeah, I would love that. Yeah, so definitely we'll post all the sources that we got our information
Yeah.
from, anything you pulled from Amy. And I'll definitely post some of the things that I'd seen, because there's, Google does that whole like AI thing now where it kind of does a summarization of all the findings, but I found
Yeah.
that that isn't
And
always
that's, yeah. Oh,
super accurate sometimes. So, but yes, so for our listeners, if there is anything out there that you know about it, we do have some listeners in Brazil. So if
nice.
you,
They're going to be real mad about my pronunciations. I apologize
not at all,
again.
the fact
Yeah.
that we're trying, I think is,
Couldn't even get the name right.
damn
I'm
it.
going to come back and say there were 16 other people that nobody talks about that did this.
Right. Right.
We're going to come back and give us
Oh
other
gosh, I would love
examples.
to hear that. That
I
would be
would love to
breaking
hear
news.
that.
We could be
Or
the
like, no, they figured it out. We have the answer right here. Just
oh,
nobody
just never
cares.
shared it with the
Yes,
world.
there was
yes.
just
It
tell
was more
nobody.
interesting just to keep it in the news with no answers.
Oh, God. Well, yeah. So, I mean, if anybody wants to take that deep dive and report back to us, we'd love to hear from you. Like I said in the beginning, we have our two other shows, which we have linked on our Facebook page and our YouTube channel. So make sure you check out our spin-off series. We have a full schedule this year of different topics that we're going to be talking about. So some of our episodes will be really long, some are short. So, but we're still bringing you things. We'll hopefully have some weird news in the next episodes. I gotta get better at bringing
Yeah,
a
we could
couple.
totally throw
We
that
could
in.
do that. Yeah.
I did want to say for the weird news thing, I did see though that just maybe yesterday they released the rest of the people that were trying to set all the beagles free. I didn't realize there was still people in jail.
Wait,
Oh,
really?
what? I didn't know about the Beagles.
Damn it. I wish I would have looked that information up now because it was in Madison, I think, wasn't it? Anybody else?
It was. I thought it was around here somewhere. Yeah, it
Yeah,
was.
I
It
think
was
it
up
was
towards
in
Madison, like Richland Hills or Richland.
Yes, something
somewhere
like that, because
Yeah,
it was the
yeah,
Richland Rescue something or
yeah.
other,
Yep.
and they broke into the facility that tests on animals, and they broke out like 20 something or 30 something beagles, and some of them were caught and returned, but a lot of them got away and have been adopted out, and people sat along, like, I mean, what is that, a month ago maybe?
Yeah,
And
about
but
that.
people just got released from that, some people.
oh yeah, these folks that were trying to help the dogs are just incarcerated, and
Yeah.
Oh my gosh,
And
yeah, it's like
that's a really controversial topic too.
It is a very controversial topic, but
You know, they
people who are
probably
testing
were
on
doing
animals are wrong.
illegal
I'm
things
just
to
gonna say
save
it.
the dogs, but they were trying to save the dogs, and
I mean, come on.
yeah.
yeah, it says I'm reading something from WSAW 7 News. It's called Rigland Farms Beagle Testing Facility continues to draw national attention. What?
Yeah, it's
Saturday's
horrible.
protest at Rigland Farm caught attention from the country where 1,000 animal activists attempted to break free 2,000 beagles
Oh my God, I was way off.
from the animal
Where's
testing
my
and
beagle?
breeding site.
I've got
What
one.
the?
Can you imagine 2,000? Oh my God,
I cannot wait. We actually had something that's going on. Like there's
Yes.
actual animals.
it's crazy. I know. People are
Pretty
nuts.
bad.
Oh my gosh. It's
But I
so
mean,
protesters went to the state capitol to demand meetings with the governor and attorney general. They basically said there's like ongoing legal matter. That is terrible.
yeah.
Oh,
And at this day and age, like, there's got to be something better. They got to,
Mhm.
like, there's got to be something better. Maybe they should work on that answer
Yeah.
because seriously, I can't even imagine all those poor dogs. And I mean, I've read such horrible stories about them, like, kind of cutting their, vocal cords so they can't make any noise. Like
oh
horrible
no.
stuff happens in those places. You know what I mean? Like, oh,
I was wondering what the heck are they
heartbreaking.
doing with the beagles? Why beagles? But
Because they're the most docile, they say, but I don't know how that is true.
I
Says that
have to disagree.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
I have my beagle. She's not all that docile. However, she's very loud. But just
Right.
the thought of doing anything to these animals is very upsetting.
Yeah, it's
Very-
heartbreaking.
Yeah, it says Rigland Farms has denied any animal abuse allegations. Last fall, the facility agreed to give up its state breeding license to avoid being prosecuted for animal mistreatment. I got to read more about this. Oh my
It's
gosh,
sad.
we love our animals here on
Yes.
the realm. So
Yes, we do.
if there would be, I mean, I would protest a lot of injustices, but for
Yes.
sure, you would catch me at one of those too. Oh.
I'd grab my beagle and show her to you, but she's sleeping and she's not that docile.
Right.
Probably
That's what
right.
I mean. I'm like, I've seen a few beagles in my day, and I don't really think that
Love
they're
her
that
to death,
docile.
but she would be like, "Hell no, get away from me!"
Right.
I'm sleeping.
Yeah, kind of wild.
Well, it has been great catching up.
Yay.
And so everybody make sure that you like, subscribe, share all of the things. Check out our spin-off podcast. Rich, stop yawning. That is forbidden. We have things.
The said animals that we are discussing had me awake early this morning. So
Oh.
and then I never went back to bed. So I'm tired.
They're all worth it though. They're so worth it. Especially little Boon Boon, the little terror.
Oh,
He's an angel. He's down here, right? He's down here sleeping. He's made a peep. He hasn't caused one bit of trouble. I think he's
Well,
down here.
until he's
Oh yeah,
awake.
he's sleeping over there.
Well, that's it for today's show. So let us know what you think. Give us your opinions. And reach out to us, connectedrealm@gmail.com. That's
Wait a minute.
Realm.
Wait. It can't be over yet.
It's over. It's over, Rob. Well, I mean,
wife? Where'd
I
she
could
go?
start singing "I Did It My Way" to make it feel more official that it's over, but it's over for today. But thanks for joining us at the tail end so we could see your beautiful face. Vogue. But yeah, we plugged the podcast. And hey, just so you know, Realm on Film will be reviewing a paranormal romance Hallmark movie called
Look at me.
We're doing Twilight.
no, maybe.
We're all going to do it shirtless with glitter on our chests.
Well,
Great. That would be great.
Called Haunted Wedding. But yes, that's what we should do. We should review Twilight and everybody dressed as a character.
No.
All right. Well, everybody, until next time, thanks for listening. Ciao. Love y'all.
bye.